Hey fellow Canon collectors, and welcome to another Bad Batch reaction here on the Canon Collector channel. Check it out. Some new digs we got going on here. Little new set for these reactions, and also a little bit of a different production schedule. It's actually 3 a.m. right now. The next episode of The Batch has just released. We're trying this out today, seeing if I get better or worse commentary. We'll have to wait and find out. Hopefully this works out pretty well though, because I like to see these episodes the minute that they drop, and Disney Plus makes it extremely difficult for somebody on the East Coast to be able to do that. So here we are, 3 a.m. watching The Bad Batch. So let's go check out today's title and description for today's episode. Episode number 12, Rescue on Ryloth. The Batch is tasked with a dangerous mission. All right, another one of these kind of know-nothing sort of descriptions. We really don't get a whole lot of information, honestly, in most of these descriptions. It's just kind of like, they're doing a thing this week. Great, thank you. So I appreciate the brief descriptions, but at the same time, you can give me a little bit more. But I do like having a nice little description here, so if we could get just a touch more information, that'd be great. So if we check out the thumbnail here, this looks very similar to that first shot that we got of Hera and Chopper during last week's episode. I'm assuming she's probably doing something similar, but she's kind of on the run right now. She might just be watching over her parents and what's going on there, potentially trying to rescue them and figure something out. Like we talked about last week, I think that this is exactly the way that this was supposed to go, where we get an episode that really sets up the next mission for the Batch without them totally being involved in it. I absolutely loved last week's episode, and just that minimal amount of the Batch and Omega was totally fine by me. But I don't know if that was because I am such a deep lore Star Wars guy, and especially a big fan of Rebels, that Chopper and Hera being in the episode was just more than enough for me. I didn't need to see anything else. I had a feeling that this was going to set up something for the Batch this week. It would have been kind of weird if we have a show called The Bad Batch and we focus on a character from one of the other shows for like at least 2 episodes, potentially 3, 4 if you're doing kind of the Clone Wars traditional story arc. I think we're going to get another fairly heavy Hera episode, at least a Syndulla episode, but I think that the Batch are going to play a bigger role this week, definitely than they did last week, with just kind of showing up for a brief second and having that be it. I am expecting some of the same, but definitely more Batch involvement, and it makes sense right in this description and in the title, Rescue on Ryloth. The Batch is tasked with a dangerous mission. Obviously, they're going to Ryloth to go rescue, I'm assuming, Cham and whoever else is involved with the whole Syndulla clan and sort of the uprising against the rebellion that's sort of happening on Ryloth. Now, as far as things I want to see in this episode, to be honest with you, they really, better than they have before, cleared the slate for me in my expectations and what's going on. I mean, obviously I want to see more Hera and more Chopper, but at the same time, what am I going to hope for? Fennec and Boba to show up? No. We got a lot going on here, so I am just not at all concerned with any sort of theories or anything that I have been thinking of previously. This is a completely new direction that we're going down, and I am all for it. Even though I don't have many expectations, a lot of you guys do. Last week, on the last reaction video that we did, we had a comment from one of our viewers who said, not gonna lie, I'll be disappointed now if we don't get a Chopper rampage alongside Wrecker next episode. And as far as things that I want to see, that has now become one of them. I didn't know how much I needed that until I read that comment. To see Wrecker and Chopper just going at it, just cutting down, I guess, clone troopers. I want to call them stormtroopers because they feel more like stormtroopers right now than clone troopers, but man, do I want to just see them take out some troopers. We'll see. I'm assuming as well that Crosshair is still on Ryloth, that he is still playing a presence, so having the Batch get involved will be interesting. It'll be interesting to see if they cross paths at all, if that's why they're going to Ryloth, or if that is just becoming a nuisance. Maybe something happens, they both get away, and then we kind of set up more for the finale. I don't really know, because I don't feel like there can be a huge confrontation right now with Crosshair, as I think that they want to save that as much as they can for the finale or the last few episodes in the show. We're on episode 12 right now, and we have 16 episodes total. So we have 4 more to go after this. Now, I don't know what the length of those 4 will be. I'm assuming they're going to be in this 25 to 30 minute realm like everything else, but the first episode being 70 minutes, anything could happen, especially for that finale. But I feel like right now there's not necessarily enough story time to maybe get into it with Crosshair and then have that be stretched out and resolved at the end of this season. I don't exactly know if I want Crosshair to turn back to the Bad Batch by the end of this season, because I feel like that would be a juicy detail to dive into in a season 2. And while I want a lot of these questions answered this season, I do want to leave some for a potential next season. The more questions that we can have, I feel like the better a shot of having a season 2 is, but at the same time, it does make sense to kind of somewhat put a bow on this whole story, just to make season 1 feel complete and rounded. But like I said, I don't know if we have enough story to dive into something with Crosshair and the Batch and then have it continue on for the next few episodes and have that be resolved in the finale. Although maybe that isn't their end goal. Maybe having the Crosshair sort of confrontation isn't something that they want for the finale. That could be more for Cad Bane and for Fennec Shand, the bounty hunter side of things, or something big with Omega and the Kaminoans, but I feel like it probably should be Crosshair. As much as Omega is a part of the Batch, and as much as all of that bounty hunter stuff is a part of this show, it is the Bad Batch show at the end of the day. So I would like to see the finale be more of a story about the Batch trying to regain Crosshair as a member. I do want to see that in season 2. I would like that to be a big resolution and have Crosshair actually come back at the end of season 2, but I could see them potentially doing it this season. Other than that though, I really have no idea how this particular episode is going to tie into the overall story of the Bad Batch. It kind of feels very much like a departure from everything that we've seen thus far. We are kind of putting a lot of the Crosshair stuff, a lot of the bounty hunter stuff, the Omega and Kaminoan stuff on hold right now for this particular story. So anyway, like we talked about last week, too much talking at the beginning of these episodes, too much theorizing, and we just need to dive right in to episode 12 of The Bad Batch, entitled Rescue on Ryloth. All right, let's see how this is. Let's see how the experience is here at 3:05 a.m. The Bad Batch. Rescue on Ryloth. Another great shot. A little more dark and dreary this time than last week, eh? Oh, okay, so they're all captive.
Cham Syndulla, the liberator of Ryloth. Now the traitor of Ryloth.
Ooh.
Attempting to assassinate your own senator.
Harsh words. Yeah, attempting to assassinate seems like he was taken out. No?
Easier to deal with. Your daughter, too.
Ooh, don't you tempt Hera. Ooh, yeah, that
Surely
clone
you
is
know
not
how
about it.
dangerous it can be out there. You don't know Hera. Eleni, you're the reasonable one. Tell us where she is, and I will ensure she is returned to you safely.
Doubt it.
I have seen how you treat your allies, Admiral. I prefer to be your enemy.
Mm-hmm.
Have it your way. Syndulla's forces attacked our transport and shot Senator Tar.
I was there. That blast didn't come from Cham or his fighters.
Ooh.
Is that so?
He knows what's up.
Leave the thinking to me, Captain. You have your orders.
What a douche.
I'll locate Harrison Syndulla myself.
That's not necessary. Another squad is handling that. It's only a matter
Another
of time
squad?
before she's found.
Crosshair? Crosshair and his troops? Choppa!
Chopper, shh. I'm here. Hang on. New plan, Chop. Meet me at the base. We need to send out a transmission, and fast.
Transmission? Oh, wow. So, yeah, they're probably contacting the batch. It all makes sense now why they had that weird kind of interaction last week.
I'm fixing it.
You can't. He's a defective unit.
Hunter.
Poor Gonky.
Don't worry, we're defective too.
Omega, it's Hera. You have to come back to Ryloth.
Isn't she the kid from the weapons drop?
Hera?
The Empire's taken my parents, and they are after me now too. I'm sending coordinates. Please hurry. I need your help.
You gave her our comm channel.
Oh,
For
boy.
emergencies, and that sounded pretty urgent.
We can't put ourselves on the line every time someone's in trouble.
Why not? Isn't that what soldiers do?
Ooh. She got you, Hunter. She got you.
What do you want us to do?
Free my parents from the capital. That's where they're being held. Please? I don't have anyone else to ask.
Let's see what we're up against first, but no guarantees.
Omega was not happy with that. She was not happy.
Orn Fritar's condition continues to improve, and he will make a full recovery.
Really? He looked like a goner last week.
Hunter? Crosshairs here.
Bum bum bum.
The troop presence here is similar to that of Raxus. This is a military occupation.
Ryloth's not a separatist planet.
Exactly my point.
Ooh, probe droids.
Command received a transmission from a probe droid in Sector 5.
Ooh. He's happy.
What you're asking us to do, it's not worth the risk.
Not to you.
Not a good choice of words there, Hunter.
She's trying to save her family, Hunter. I'd do the same for you.
Oh, she got him. She's sassy.
So this
Ooh,
is the side
is he gonna break him out?
chosen.
I think he is.
Attack the capital? What? That was my plan!
Not the capital. The Imperial refinery on the outskirts.
Wow, the refinery. It all makes sense
I know their
now.
routine. If we attack there, reinforcements will be diverted from the capital.
We can use that distraction to rescue Hera's parents.
Alright, you two go with Chopper as backup, but at a distance.
Here we go.
Really?
Although this probably means because Chopper isn't going with Wrecker,
We are in position.
we ain't gonna get that rampage. Disappointed, but could happen still. We got some time. Oh man, I miss the Chopper-centric episodes of Rebels. God, this is a treat. This is a true treat.
How are we going to do that?
With one of those. You said you wanted to be a pilot, right?
Oh yeah.
Well, come on.
You got this, Hera. She definitely gets a little better with a little time, huh? Nice, Chop, nice. That went way too smooth.
Registering multiple explosions near the refinery.
That was us.
The refinery's under attack.
I'll handle it. Stay here and guard the capital.
Nice. Good thing he's gonna be there.
Almost said to protect the refinery.
That's not their time.
Ooh, Crosshair is going rogue.
Attacking it.
Ooh, we're gonna get a showdown between those two, man. Wow. Don't open it.
You're walking into a trap. There's a squad out there waiting.
You can't stay here. They'll know you helped us.
I will not abandon my squad. They're good men.
You probably
Try to get
should.
through them.
I don't know if this is gonna go well for you, pal.
Brothers, what are we doing? We came here to free Ryloth from Separatist control, and we succeeded. But look around you. We're now being ordered to target the very people we swore to protect, and I will not be a part of it any longer.
Ooh, you
Who will stand
are
with me?
not gonna make it out of this episode, I don't think. Oh wow, quite a few troopers.
Arrest those traitors.
Okay. Wow, interesting.
It would seem I underestimated your 4 friends. If only they were fighting for us instead of against us.
Request permission to hunt them down.
Granted.
Boom. Okay. Alright. I think I see where we're headed here. Yep. And boom. Okay. All right, so I thought that was a very solid episode. Definitely a good conclusion to last week. I think that this pretty much spells out the fact that this was a 2-episode arc and probably not a 3-episode arc, at least involving the Syndulas, particularly Hera, but it very well could be. I think that they are off and gonna do their thing, organize as they said, but that doesn't necessarily mean that they won't be back. Like I've talked about before, creating these CG assets is something that costs a fair bit of money. So to put somebody in there kind of willy-nilly is not something necessarily that they're going to do too often. Kind of like my theories and why I think Saw Gerrera will be back at some point. It just makes sense if you're going to create a new character model that you are probably going to use them more than just a little bit. Now, these past 2 episodes use quite a bit of the Syndulas, particularly Hera. So I don't necessarily know. This is a weird gray area now to whether or not that justified the cost or not. I definitely think that's why they wanted to do a 2-episode deal. But at the same time, the story really dictated it, right? We had to kind of give a lot of backstory and exposition to this mission that the batch were going to go on. And it wouldn't have felt right if you tried to jam this all into 1 episode, unless that 1 episode was an hour-long sort of double-length episode. So I don't necessarily know if they're coming back. It seems like that could very well just lead into Rebels and everything else, but I think that that's opening the door for Hera to come back at some point in time. Like I talked about before, I think that this show is really serving as a sequel to the Clone Wars and a prequel to Rebels. So I could see us throughout the next few seasons having Hera return and seeing a little more of her growth and sort of leading up into the Rebel series. We also saw Caleb Doom, Kanan Jarrus, so it might make sense that maybe somehow we see them meet up. I don't know if that would work canon-wise given the novel that's out that I still haven't gotten all the way through yet. I could see them potentially wanting to do that, but this is also just a narrative thing that I think is smart for Star Wars. The same thing that they're doing with Fennec Shand, which is taking characters that were created after the majority of the story of a time period has been told and reinserting them back in to make the whole world feel a little more fleshed out and a little more fluid. Now it makes a lot more sense. If we just had a whole era of no Hera, no Fennec, nothing like that, and then met them on later down the road like we do, just in Rebels and just in Mando, it might be a little weird. This just kind of builds out more of the world. It makes sense, and I like what they're doing. And I think that's a lot of what the show is going to be. Sort of a middle chapter between Clone Wars and Rebels. Anyway, as far as this episode goes, it was a really solid episode. And like I said, it's a good conclusion to all of the setup that we had last week. But this episode was just really kind of a pew-pew, punchy sort of action episode, which isn't a bad thing. But like I've talked about in a lot of the videos on this channel, action stuff really isn't necessarily my cup of tea, even though I am a big Star Wars fan, and that is a fairly big portion of what goes on. It's more of the exposition, it's more of the dialogue, the conversations between characters, the exploration into the different themes, the lore, the Force, the canon collecting, more so than just the straight up action stuff. But I see why it is necessary, and especially after last week, that there was a little bit of action throughout that episode. It was good to probably get just more of a down and dirty, punchy sort of an episode. Not that we didn't see some punchy stuff last week, but this week definitely, if this was a full-length 2-hour movie, this would make sense. The third act is going to be our big battle fight scenes. So I totally understand the route that they went down with this particular episode. But overall, not a whole lot other than setting up the ability for Hera and the Syndulas to return. Crosshair now being sent on this mission to actually be able to hunt down the Bad Batch. They were not a priority beforehand, even though that was the priority to Crosshair. Definitely not the priority to the Empire. So now the Empire is seeing how big of a threat these guys are, and that it would be smart for them to be probably not eliminated, but captured. And the reason I say that is because obviously the way that the Empire wanted, felt that the Bad Batch could add a lot of value to what they have going on, working with us instead of against us. And that was pretty interesting because I feel like you could really see kind of the resentment on Crosshair's face. Because like I've talked about in some of the other episodes, it seemed like Crosshair was a fairly good leader. And I think that that is kind of the role and position that he has wanted to take on, that he is just as good as the Bad Batch, able to lead a team just as well as Hunter is. So we can definitely see some resentment there, and I think that Crosshair is definitely going to be attempting to not necessarily capture them, but just take them out if need be, which is going to pose a whole lot of interesting things, not just for his relationship with the Empire, not just his relationship with the Bad Batch themselves, but for us as an audience, that we could potentially see one of the Batch get taken out. Who of the Batch that might be, I don't know. But if that is a thing, I definitely don't think it will be in this season if we're going multiple seasons. That sounds like one of these sort of season 2 elements that I've been talking about, that kind of having a full batch up until maybe we get to somewhere in season 2, and then I can see a member of the Batch eating it. And probably, honestly, Echo, just because there's enough time there, I feel like, throughout Star Wars canon, that if you take him out, it's not going to feel as bad as Tech or Wrecker or Hunter, where we just kind of scratch the surface of their story, of who they are. Echo has had, a little bit more before, so it would make more sense to take him out. Plus, it's probably the saddest, because of that time that we spent with him. And just because of who he is in general, I think that might be a smart person to take somebody out if we're going to do that. But I don't think it would happen. And we did, even in this episode, set up the potential for other clones to be joining their crew, right? And not even just the main clone. I keep forgetting his name. From the Ryloth sort of Syndulla camp, he was able to turn at least half of those clone troopers, pointing blasters at him, and he was able to turn at least half of them, it seemed like. Maybe even more. It was a fair bit of the troopers were just immediately threw down their weapons and ready to switch sides. I am very curious as to why they kind of gave up so easy, because I don't think being kind of arrested by the Empire is is ever a thing you want. I think for something like that, you are much better off taking your chances and trying to escape than being imprisoned by them, because it's either torture or death, man. Like, that's screw that. Like, I want no part of that. So it'd be interesting to see if we come back around to that, which I definitely think will happen. Whether or not we see the Syndulas and Hera, I think we are going to see those clone troopers again, potentially joining the batch, maybe for some sort of big final battle. Maybe there's a bunch of other sort of rogue clone troopers out there who might join them in sort of a Rise of Skywalker sort of ending. Just every rogue clone coming out there, taking on Crosshair and his troopers. But again, I hope they do not take him out. I hope it is a fun separation. But I really see where they're going with this. It makes a whole lot of sense. I'm glad that Crosshair didn't really directly meet the Bad Batch in this episode. I think if there was another confrontation, it would take away from the bigger confrontation that I feel like we know is going to happen in the finale or somewhere in that general realm of episodes. This was kind of the perfect scenario to be able to involve both of them and move the story forward in a unique way. Now, this kind of ties into what I was originally thinking these next few episodes were going to be. I had originally thought that this was going to be, these few episodes, weren't going to happen like this, and essentially the Batch was going to be on the run from, either Cad Bane, not Fennec, but potentially some other bounty hunters. And I think that that's still a cool idea if we could bring in some other original trilogy bounty hunters trying to hunt down Omega. But I think that we're just swapping out the bounty hunter for Crosshair in the Empire. They are really on the run now. Crosshair is absolutely, he has got the keys to the hunt 'em down mobile. So, there's no stopping him here. It will be interesting to see if we pick up that thread next episode, or if it's going to take a little bit for Crosshair to be able to locate them. If it was me, I would go into that whole bounty hunter-esque on the run sort of an idea from Crosshair. Now, what would be interesting to see is if they kind of combine both of them and you have Crosshair chasing them down while also the bounty hunters are chasing them down, and maybe Crosshair and the bounty hunters sort of get into it, because the bounty hunters that are being hired are not commissioned by the Empire. That's on the Kaminoans. Totally foresee, there is a conflict there waiting to happen. So it would be interesting to see sort of the Batch use that to their advantage. The way that the next few episodes will be laid out will be very interesting if that sort of a thing were to happen, because you could have, this next episode not be involving Crosshair, maybe be involving another bounty hunter, and then the episode after that, which would be episode 14, you could have Crosshair emerge again to episode 15, where we have the two of them, the bounty hunter and Crosshair, kind of colliding, the Batch escaping, and then maybe we have a big final showdown in some way, shape, or form. But I could also see this taking on sort of, the next few episodes, 13, 14, 15, and then 16, the finale, just kind of being them running from Crosshair. That is not too many episodes, I think, for that to happen. So we have 4 more episodes. So that's essentially one Clone Wars arc. 3 to 4 episodes was a typical Clone Wars arc, I feel like. So I could see us potentially doing that, where maybe he hunts him down, finds him pretty much right away, and then we get 4 episodes of them just kind of going through that whole process of eluding him, escaping from him, or potentially trying to pull him back to the light, having him join the rest of the batch again. Could be 4 episodes of that. That's not totally out of the realm of possibility. I don't totally think so. I feel like we gotta do something else in here, at least based on the way that the show has been pacing itself. And I feel like the lessons that they've learned from the Clone Wars, and especially season 7 of the Clone Wars, and the way that they paced a lot of those story arcs, I think there's going to be a little more juice and meat on the bones to these couple episodes in this series. But again, I don't totally know. we could be going back to Sid right now and getting another Sid mission before we eventually meet up with Crosshair again. That could be a thing. I wouldn't hate that, to be honest with you. There's something about that now that we are now far enough removed that we had something like a Moochie episode again. I would be thrilled with that, I feel like. But it doesn't totally make sense narratively, so they would have to do something in that episode to make it make sense narratively, kind of like after that mid-season episode when they kind of explained that they couldn't really just be hanging around with Sid much. They had to really do this job to get in, get out, clear, do something to clear their debts and try to move on because they are wanted. So it'll be interesting to see if they make up an excuse for, some other not filler episode, not fluff episode, but some other sort of mission of the week thing. Because right now it seems like we are on a track directly to the finale. So next episode, I feel like, will be really telling. And I feel like I end up saying that a lot, but they keep doing things that aren't necessarily subverting my expectations, but are just leading me down paths that I didn't know we would be going. Like I said, not subverting my expectations, not thinking we're going left and going right, but just like going straight down the middle, down a road that wasn't paved that I did not realize was there. That kind of feels like what we're doing at this point with this show. So, or at least that's what this whole Ryloth story arc was. Where we go now and what we do now, I don't exactly know. I mean, it is set up, right? Crosshair is going to be after him, but to what degree? And to how many episodes is that going to happen? Because we honestly haven't seen a whole lot of Crosshair in this show. Not as much as I feel like we originally thought when we thought it was going to be all the batch all the time, and it's, the batch minus Crosshair. And at this point, it doesn't even feel like he's a part of the batch, which is really weird to me, thinking back to when we first saw the batch in the Clone Wars, when that felt very much like it was, Crosshair, Hunter, Wrecker, and Tech, and then Echo. So more Crosshair. I'm all for it. Spend an episode just with Crosshair looking for him next episode. Maybe he goes and he finds Sid. Maybe he interrogates Sid. Just do not do anything to harm that poor woman, because we need her for future seasons. Unless this thing is ending after one season, which I just cannot see being a thing. I don't know if it's gotten greenlit for a season 2 yet, but there's no way I think that I can't. This is an absolutely perfect show for Star Wars Animation, and Star Wars Animation needs to continue. So this is a win-win all around. There's no way I feel like you can this after one season. Definitely going, my guess would be 4 seasons, if not more, if they want it, if there is more story to tell. And 4 seasons seems very reasonable. Something like Rebels helps you kind of flesh things out in the first season, and then have 3 solid seasons of story and in momentum, and answering questions and posing new questions and still having time to solve it. And we just don't have to worry about the same things that network TV did, where when you greenlit a show and you had a show that was a hit or was performing reasonably for you, you really didn't want to cancel it. You wanted to keep going with it. But in this format, Star Wars has the ability to just come up with a new show and do something else. So tell the story in not necessarily as few seasons as you need to, but whatever, however long it takes to comfortably do that. And then let's move on to something else, either another spin-off or a sequel or a prequel to this show, or just something completely different. Obviously, in this week, no bounty hunter stuff, no Boba Fett references, not a whole lot of references to outside canon, potentially some stuff that I missed and will probably pick up on my second viewing. So if you caught anything in the episode, as always, make sure to comment below and let us know what I missed. But there wasn't a whole lot of stuff. Obviously, some slight tongue-in-cheek nods throughout both of these episodes, really, to kind of the future and what we know of Hera and Chopper, what we know of clone troopers and stormtroopers. These are all things that we're just kind of expecting at this point, but nothing that super blew my mind or blew, the top off of, opened a can of worms, I guess, do a whole bunch of canon stuff. And that's not bad. I'm very happy with that, because telling the story of the Bad Batch, I think, is what's most important, in making sure that you do a good job of coherently telling that story all the way through. I want to be able to sit down with these 16 episodes and watch them front to back like a giant movie, or multiple movies, or a movie trilogy, however you want to look at it, and really feel the story ebb and flow and move naturally throughout the season. And I think that something like this is big. I don't need big show-stopping things or fan servicey things to make me intrigued in the show. So if this is what we're doing, if this is how we're going, that's cool. But if you want to throw me some cool canon nuggets eventually, please do so, because I would be more than happy to accept them. Obviously, we are probably going to get some sort of canon nugget by the end of the show with the Kaminoans, and I'm hoping Boba, but that's not a guarantee. And the only reason I feel like that is a thing that would happen, because in any other scenario, I think they would wait. But I think that it is a possibility because of where we are going to be getting the Book of Boba Fett in December, or sort of the holiday season of this coming year. So I think that it would be, if they are going to go that route, I think that it would be now, to do it now, than to wait till next season, because the hype that would create for the Book of Boba Fett, and in return for the Bad Batch, I think would just be too huge to pass up. Essentially, you want to leave people enough time, because I don't think that there's really another major Star Wars project coming out, other than, I think, Visions, the sort of anime show that they have. But I don't think that there is another big sort of announced show that will happen before the Book of Boba Fett. So this would be smart. Give people enough time to binge through this series in between that gap between this and the Book of Boba Fett. I think that that's really smart, and that's kind of what you got to do, is add some more big Boba juicy details in this. But enough about Boba. We talk about Boba every single week, and so far zero movement on that. Anyway, I thought today's episode was great. Like I said, a great conclusion to last week's episode. Opens the door for some future possibilities, but nothing too major for right now. The biggest thing that we got, like we talked about, is Crosshair now on the official hunt for the Bad Batch, and I think that is what is going to fuel the next few episodes. Whether we deviate from that or not is yet to be seen, and I could see that being a thing. But the pressure of Crosshair breathing down their neck is going to be big. And it will be interesting to see whether they know that or not. Anyway, guys, thank you once again for joining me on another Bad Batch reaction here on the Canon Collector channel. Hope you also dug all of the cool stuff behind me and the new little setup we got going on here. Hopefully we're going to be updating this and playing around with some of this stuff, getting it to be a little prettier, and updating some of our other tech and equipment here to beautify these reaction videos, as well as all of the other content on our channel. Speaking of that, if you like the content that we're putting out, particularly this video, make sure to give us a like as well as comment, and let me know of anything that I missed in this episode, or go back, watch some of the other videos, and make sure to comment on things that I missed in those as well. If you like this video and you want to see more of what we at the Canon Collector have to offer, make sure to click that subscribe button as well, and turn on your notifications so that you'll be notified when we post new videos. As well, you can also check us out on Instagram and on TikTok at The Canon Collector and Canon Collector. Make sure to find us on all of those other social media platforms and join our ever-growing community. Once again, guys, thank you so much for checking out this video and the rest of the content that we have here on YouTube. It means a whole lot to us, and we appreciate all of your love and support. As always, may the spires keep you, and may the Force be with you. See you next week.